There we go.
Ooh, Chris, what was that crisp opening I just heard right there? What do we got for sober October today?
I think it's the same thing I had last week. I
Ooh, a
think.
delicious
I'm not
seltzer.
sure. But it's this Run Wild
Run Wild.
IPA, Athletic Brewing Company.
Alcohol-free IPA. Chris,
Yeah,
would you say that IPAs are your favorite kind of beer drink item?
I think so.
All
I think
right.
so.
You like that hoppiness, huh?
I like the hoppy. It makes me happy
It
when I
makes me happy. I have with me some Cabernet in my fun little
Oh, we're going
flower
wine.
glass.
We're
I do.
going wine tonight. We're getting all frou.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes and no. This wine has been in the refrigerator since um,
Uh-oh.
the day before my birthday, when my parents came to visit me. And I mean, it tastes good to me, but
That's not too good. It's aged.
I,
It's
I
aged.
think so. It tastes nice. I mean, I'm not such an excellent connoisseur of drinks. I have such a strange variety of beverages.
Look at that.
Like we've seen me enjoy some pretty strange combinations,
Oh
choices.
yes, that's so true. Well, that night you had Ripple. It was that was a special night, as I
Oh
recall.
wait, which one was that? Wait, what?
When you were you drinking Ripple?
What?
Ripple.
What is? Oh, wait, don't remind me.
You
I'm
don't
like
even know what
blanking.
you don't know what Ripple is?
No, what's that?
I was making a joke. Ripple is like a really, really cheap, super cheap
Oh, sorry.
wino wine.
Oh no.
I
I
thought you
think.
knew what Ripple was because you do the song Ripple.
Well, that's
You
what I was
know,
saying. I was like, did I have like a Grateful Dead themed beverage at some
no,
point?
that's what Ripple is. It's a
I
super,
didn't
super
know.
cheap.
I'm sorry. Oh no, should I have known this? I've heard other funny names for like super cheap beverages, like I think like $2 Chuck or something like that. Or
$2 Chuck is the Trader Joe's wine.
oh yeah. I've heard about this. Well, how come they don't sell that here in Connecticut? I think you can't sell wine at like a grocery store in Connecticut. I think that's why. Something like that.
Yeah, you can get beer at the Trader Joe's.
Yeah,
That's
just
the
beer.
important thing.
That is the important thing,
Hey,
Chris.
listen,
Well,
Maria Lindland, who's tuning in, she loves your wine glass. Show that
oh,
again.
thank you.
Look at that fancy thing.
It is so fun. I bought this ages ago before I was even much of a wine drinker because I just thought, wow, how fun and how sweet is that? And now I get to use it all the time. Oh,
There you
mom and
go.
dad are in the
Mom
house.
and
We've got
dad.
some people joining us on YouTube, on Facebook. Fabulous. We've got such an exciting night tonight, as usual. But following up after our amazing fall open mic night last
That was
week,
crazy.
it was incredible.
That was crazy. Our cup ranneth over.
It really did. We had such an incredible mix of genres, styles, performances. It just blew our minds. And of course, whenever we have our awesome friends, Philip J. Curtis and John Chance Acevedo with us, it is always an amazing time. They always blow our minds and crack us up.
Yes,
Our friends.
they do. They've got a good routine going.
They really do. And,
You
if you want to see that routine more regularly, you'll have to tune in to put it in the chat the second and fourth Wednesday of every month.
That's right.
We
Which
are
would be
very, what's that?
which would be is that this one?
I think, yeah, I think they have a show coming up on Wednesday. I
Yeah,
wonder if they're going to do anything Halloween themed, Chris.
no, they didn't mention anything like that.
I wonder. Well, it is 8 o'clock, so it's time for us to officially welcome you to FUMFA 71, our 71st reading.
Boy,
And Our featured readers for tonight are two amazing special guests, Ray Jane and Owen Elphick. We cannot wait to hear from them tonight. And you can't forget that at 9 o'clock, we get to, after their readings, we get to spend some time with them in our Q&A. And, you know, it's amazing to get to know these people. Stick around all the way till the end. Make sure you throw a question in the chat, and it's going to be amazing. But Chris, tell us what's coming up after this week. We do have some Halloween stuff going on.
Oh, yeah. Well, next Sunday, it just happens to be Halloween night.
Yeah.
So, assuming that people are not out, trick-or-treating and are ready for some Halloween spooky literature, they can tune in to our very special spooky night. And man, we've got some serious
amazing list of folks
on hand. We've got a whole bunch of people, folks like Phil Lamos and Ed Poetastic and Unmesh. Those guys were on last week. Tanish Kaur, Ye Song, Deb Carr, Vale is coming back.
It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, and it's in costumes are strongly encouraged.
Strongly encouraged. Get into the spirit, folks.
Definitely for our readers, but also for our viewers. Of course, we won't be able to see you out there, but I think your appreciation of the evening will increase exponentially.
Put on a costume.
Even if you have to do the ghost bedsheet or the hobo,
throw on a pair of ears.
It will help. And just to let you know, the week after that, we're going to have Paul Latore and Elemental, and that's our time change night.
Time change night.
That's the day where we fall back an hour, and we are going to fall back an hour as well. It started at 7 p.m.
Yes.
Starting that week on the 7th of November. Week after that, we have our good friend Lisa Kastner from Running Wild Press.
Woo!
Some of her Running Wild people are going to run wild on our show, and it's going to be a fantastic night.
Going to be amazing. Thank you so much, Chris. So we have amazing things coming up. You obviously need to follow us on Facebook and on Instagram and on YouTube if you don't already, so that you can enjoy all of this incredible stuff coming up. Chris, I also was just chatting with a few folks who have some books coming out from Red and Green Books. And, I think we're going to be doing something special with them, with our friend Generalissimo in the new year.
Generalissimo. All right.
Yes. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be fabulous. Chris, speaking of spooky night, I've got my vampire blood candle here. And, what do you think this smells like? It's a pretty creepy name, but.
Well, I don't know. Does it smell like pumpkins?
That's a good guess.
I'm hoping it doesn't smell like blood.
I know, right? I know. I almost didn't buy it because I thought it was kind of cute, but I'm also like, blood. No, it smells very, very much like strawberries and plums. It's extremely fruity.
That was my next guess.
Not what I expected, but I was glad that it had a fun smell. And I've been burning it. I've been enjoying it. But we need to get down to business tonight.
Oh my God! Please, yes.
We need to welcome our first guest of the evening. We have with us Ray Jane and Owen Elphick, and we are now going to welcome the amazing Ray Jane. Hey, Ray Jane.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Good evening.
Welcome back.
Good evening.
Yes, we had Ray Jane as a guest during the summertime. It was an incredible evening with Paul Latour, Elemental,
She's a whole bunch of people.
Vasilios Leon, and it was just incredible. And Nathaniel Beck, and we were just talking about we need to have all you guys back. We need to give you a full feature. We want to have another Q&A, and so we're so excited you're with us tonight, Ray Jane. let me read your bio to introduce you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. All right, here we go. Ray Jane is a Black female poet born in Brooklyn and raised in Far Rockaway, Queens. She uses her poetry to lift herself and other women of color. Always aiming to strengthen her voice, Ray Jane was also the recent winner of the Verb Benders Slam Poetry Team's inaugural Poetry Slam and was published in La Libreta.online, an online poetry journal for women in creative rebellion. She has participated in poetic writing workshops focused on empowering women like Robles Writes Presents, Respite, Write, and Release, amongst many others, and served as contributing editor for the anthology Love Letters to Gaia. You can hear more of how she uses her voice in over 50 recorded poems on SoundCloud. Go check it out. Walking Around NYC on the app Here Before, and on several podcasts, including We Be Imagining, Black Siren Radio, and Sound Minds podcast, Potent Women Wordsmiths. And for more information, you can visit her website at itsrayjane.com. So excited to have you again, Ray Jane. We'll leave you too.
She's got the grooviest glasses. I can tell you that right
I
now.
know, all the coolest glasses for you.
Thank you guys so much, Chris and Katie. It is a pleasure to be here, as it is each time that I come. And I'm so grateful to have a safe space here with you all to share. And of course, excited to share the stage with Owen. I'm sure he's going to bring even more magic our way. So first and foremost, if you like anything that you hear tonight, you can find all of my content on itsrayjane.com. That's itsrayjane.com. You can find me on Instagram at Ray Jane. So we're going to get through a bunch of different pieces tonight, and I hope that you enjoy them. I'm trying to give you some nice variety, and I hope that comes across. So first, we're going to start with a new piece that is entitled Timber. When I speak, I topple my tree to spread my seeds, bring my crown down to eye level, make my height clear, perspective tangible. I invite the air to spread my branches, transform me into a wind-blown seed. Riding on the air, I gulp free, regurgitate so you can breathe, decompose to show us as a connected community. Life in constant flux, we do not flower in deserts. I add to the lushness, green and palatial. I am a forest. None of my babies grow in isolation. Those, these, those, bohabs will break and bow before sacrificing seeds to desolation. Sometimes a tree has to unroot to prove she is worth saving. So that one came out of a writing workshop run by Art Defined and masterfully created by Peggy Robles Alvarado, and it's called Line Breaks and Bronx Beats, and it's awesome. Every time they have it, you should definitely take advantage of that, a means of us learning from each other and creating from each other's work. That was also after William Natubu's Giles Prescribed Fire. So this next piece is after The Whispers, which is a R&B group from back in the day, for those old heads in the crowd. And this is called Olivia. And if you'll have me, I'm going to sing a little bit. Olivia the slave got distracted on her way to grandmother's house. A wolf in lamb's clothing came, blew her mind, and he changed her ways. And now she's turned out, lost and turned out. This is a trigger warning to all those who feel unsafe in their own home, to the victims of sex crimes, to the victims of the sex trade, to those who do not consider sex work an extension of their right to be, to those who, when faced with the choice, always choose survival, and for those whom the choice is taken, always choose to fight. Even if the Supreme refused to judge in favor of the being already living, this is for you. There is a girl somewhere, not older than 8, blooming against her will. There is a flower whose delicacy falls like petals exchanging themselves for concrete. There is a lady who sneaks her dreams into her prayers while a man tears into her body. There are women on your street powdering their only foundation over their bruises. She is your neighbor. She is not okay. There are females trapped in foreign bodies, sacrificed for others' fears, for their power, for their life is a defiance that calls too many dimensions for flat eyes. There are a group of girls huddled amongst the sharp of shoulders, traversing oceans. Strange tuna feed for shadow demons. There are women, perhaps the most dangerous duality, madams managing brothels of brutality, a woman and her forgotten humanity, the product of millennia of maleness. She who forgets she is a principal. Those women who teach the enemy how to capture a storm, denounce and renounce a divine for a chance to conform. Where are the women who don't need permission to fight? Where are the women who burn down every archy to make it right? Where are the women who know their power closes circuits that won't stand to see one more human sacrificed, who will throw down their life? All of a sudden, it got real quiet. Collectively, we all contribute to the carnage. Closing our mouths, we manage to crush another voice that went unsaid, silence ushering into darkness, and with our tongues caked in excuses not to don a cape, we make the beds. We pull the sheets back. We bind the skin. We turn it blue. We are responsible for what society lacks. So again, before we demand another thing from men, I'm hollering, where are my women at? A curious trivia, shouted in hopes that one day we wounds deliver Olivia. So that piece is difficult to share. It's difficult to hear the stories of women who are ravaged by society and forgotten. So we take a minute to honor them. And unfortunately, in the world in which we live, the woes go on, and they certainly don't stop when your skin is brown like mine. So this next piece was written when viewing the lack of humanity at the border, when Haitians came to us looking for refuge and were met instead with the lash. And this is entitled, What Name Do You Go By When a Man is Being Whipped? They're still whipping black skin at the border. Crack of lash it back, my black skin somehow felt that. Felt it ripple over centuries of overturned graves, made me recall I am yet a slave, foolish and guided astray, wondering which part of this home feels brave. I spout out, frothing in rage, bundle up hope, can't burn enough sage, got the nerve to whip a man who has no land. We offer empty hand when generosity falls short of a minimum wage. If all the world's a stage, can they hire some new fucking actors? Cause we're tired of all these reenactments. I feel incensed. Burn my incense so ancestors gift me humanity so I can see when a creature is on his last breath. Make it impossible to consider the lash. How fast can a man dismiss the existence of a god thing like this? The obviousness of it, shitting in your grits. Oh, you're uncomfortable now. Good. I was wondering what finally would turn your mind to what is simple, what is unkind. I implore you to find yourself in every terror-filled step, as the inviting river around you now wept, how they leapt to avoid skin releasing from their backs. Can you imagine fleeing for your life just to meet attack? Can you imagine fleeing hate on horseback at that? Ask your local bureaucrat who paid for that. Can you imagine? They've been training for that. Running drills on human wills, still practicing on our open bellies. Better yet, why is it so hard to perceive that, to believe that people feel for a living just to be killed for their living, and all you can muster up to give is a like and a share? But dare not mention it, speak the wicked out their bridges, or wait for the body to rid itself of affliction. What you continue to be missing is a rising tide of all who've been listening. Ain't missed a peep nor threat, still swimming in debt. Moses ain't quite saved all the people yet. There's body parts in my Red Sea. So behind we pray for an in-between, a loosening, an unnoosed thing. A freedom that dared to ring might end up a frightening thing. Whipped on the wall, we stay. Whipped on the walk, we stay. We remain. The violent truth in it. Soon snatch the whip and proceed to wreck, cause the way y'all showing disrespect seem like somebody getting a paycheck. All these IOUs, we wondering why we ain't paid yet. At this rate, we all won't have to play dead. You ought to drop your head. You ought to be ashamed, be enraged that someone would dare spill wickedness in your name, unless that's your name. Thank you. The next piece is from my book that I am currently putting together and working on, and it should be with us soon. So please look out for that. I'll be sharing a number of pieces from that, Olivia being one of them, which you've already heard. So we got kind of heavy, so I'm gonna try and light things up a little bit and give you a full experience. So this next one is entitled Me and Melodies. Music and I have something going on. It's been courting me while I marinated in my mother. Provision for rhythm making amniotic waves I swayed. Even then I kicked. I reached for sound, emerged into the world, still searching for melodies. Now, the only thing that can stop me, reroute me, root me again. I was convinced, conceived on hips in cleft notes, maturing to listen better. Hearing visions now, mixing jazz into my morning tea. Age piper pipering me to nature, eager to step outside myself. I seek the trumpeting of wind. the sound, the sun, a grand piano. There is reggae in the grass today. Steel pans paying against the drumming dew, stretching my toes into the earth, sinking myself deeper in, perceiving sound in full color, music painting me recklessly, and I lavish in the cadence of controlled calamity. Red-breasted birds return my breath to me, their flapping close kin to applause. Small creatures climb onto my back, also hoping to journey, listening for the notes, knowing there is no form to love, but recognizing all that sings. I hope you like that one. That's one of my favorite pieces to share because it's just fun. I'm going to share another one with you that's also a lot of fun, and a newer piece entitled, What Music Do Your Bones Hold? And this also came from that same workshop with Peggy Robles Alvarado, excuse me. Again, what music do your bones hold? These bones vibrate, slapping a line of white ivories on card table they shake. Lovers of boom and bass bellowing forever like the shape of 808. Like the dope boys rolling slow down the block. Rhythms heating concrete provide music sheets. You can hear these bones coming. Rumbling hood symphonies, old heads become slowly bopping gray domes, offering quick glimpses of respect, recognizing similar cadence in my joints, twisting in and out of 4/4 tempos, the realness rising up out my drop top over windows rolled down by hand, earning its breeze. It be funkified, fried, dyed, and blow dried, but still rocking freshly crisp curlers in the melodies of hair salon spilling tea behind me. It's summertime, and it's summertime, and the music is easy. Immortal symphonies begin aging gracefully in my marrow. All right. So music means a lot to me, as I'm sure it means a lot to majority of y'all out there. And it's a big deal as far as how it promotes or inspires what I'm writing. I also have a open mic very much centered around music and how it moves us, called Freestyle Fridays. You can catch the last Friday of every month, including this coming Friday. If you follow me at It's Ray Jane on Facebook or Ray Jane on Instagram, you can see flyers advertising how you can get involved. And we would love to see you there. In the meantime, I'm going to continue to share with you. And we're going to talk about a little bit of love and flirtation with the time that we have left. This next one is called New Moon. Invite me to your lap, griot. I love to watch as thoughts connect your heart and head, well fed, I see. Full and delightfully complete. Sentences, thoughts articulated with punctuation, I look on eagerly awaiting the blooming honeysuckle that is your mind. Not to be outdone, I bring my own wits to the picnic, let it warm in your sun. Buzzing about your litanies like lilies, please believe I'm trying to pollinate your shit. Expand you, I command you to attention when I mention how you and me be hula hooping dark matter. We chatter magnetic, forget it. I already got all your negatives, flipping charges, particulars of the anatomy of your speech, naked and dancing wildly. You got me staring freely at your jawline as conviction clenches your teeth. I want to be the air between your lips when your argument gains momentum, facts flying from your face, animating with your hands. I drink you, not a lazy listener though. I tussle with you intellectually, guiding us to and fro. I learn from you. Not because I want to make love to your timber, or because I'll always remember that the words I now adore also call you home. No, I give you no freebies, make you defeat me with rebuttals verbose. Before I ever ingest you, I hold you up close, inspect you, ensure you are what you seem, push the boundaries of your mind, force you to perform on steam. I want to hear you when your silence is speaking. I want to converse with you so deeply that at the end of every conversation, I have more of you in me. All right now. To turn it up a little bit on y'all. Forgive me. All right. If I have time, I have one more for you. I believe I have it till 8:30. So this one is entitled Release. I am grateful for every shovel full of discomfort it took to unearth me, to dig me out of myself. The waste moved to reveal that no one truly emerges when the expansion is inward, internal, faced about eye level, mirroring, becoming a continuum of self. Many me's freed from the confines of singular identities. I got to be me. In many moods, it took many moons to spin me right, to list my rights, to be whoever the fuck I'm called to be, melding minds with those similarly inclined, craning into what could be collectively. We choose to break boxes and get loosed. We unnoosed, we open-necked, walk with real selves on legs and sturdy courage. We brimming with pains, held with highest head. We pour flammable faith on shame. Then light that shit and smoke our mask. We do not conform. We do not ask. We live with our hearts out on our sleeves. Absorb past teeming with trauma and release. All notions that a body should be ruled has to have credentials. We condemn the cruel, those who consider it acceptable to ever try to define a soul for how it exists, how it breathes, who delivers it pleasure, or what form truly fits the core of our clay on the inside. Is only for our hands to twist, for our joy to wish, for our peace don't need no fucking permit. We go on and defiantly exist. Thank you.
Woo! Oh my God, Chris, we're not worthy. Raging.
Thank you. Thank you, friends.
That was such a great way to end.
Oh,
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my God, our pleasure.
absolutely our pleasure. Raging, so powerful, such powerful stuff, such moving imagery, and your reading voice and rhythm. Like, I'm totally captivated. You have to go read your comments later on Facebook and YouTube. You got so much love, and like, I was totally captivated. You're just amazing every time I hear you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you to everybody in Facebook land and YouTube land.
Yeah.
Don't forget, people, to put your questions in the chat.
Yes. And Ray Jane will be back with us at 9, along with Owen for our Q&A. So Ray Jane, we will see you in a little bit. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All righty.
Chris. So awesome. Every single time I hear Ray Jane, and what a treat to have a full feature. Such awesome stuff. Incredible.
Get the full on Ray Jane
experience. We get a lot of Ray Jane. All right. Well, we need to welcome our second reader tonight, Owen Elphick. Welcome, Owen.
There he is.
We're
are
thrilled
you?
to have you with us.
Hi, what's going on? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Sound great.
we hear you, we see you.
Yes. And Chris, would you do the honors of introducing Owen with his bio?
It would indeed be my honor. Owen Elphick is a writer, performer, and creator from Storrs, Connecticut.
Hey.
Right down the road originally, but currently he's based in the Philadelphia area, where he works as a bookseller. Of course, a very noble calling. He is the author of Thoughts and Prayers from Wild Press, a book-length sequence of poems centered around gun violence in the United States. His work has been published in the Hartford Courant, the Under Review, which is where I first came across him, Corridors, Gage, and the Berkeley Beacon, among other places. Also anthologized in the Golden Thread Project and Chickadee Tales, a New Haven Bird Club anthology, and also presented at the Eugene O'Neill Center's National Theater Institute, Emerson Stage's New Works Festival, and the Connecticut Drama Association Festival.
So awesome.
Graduated from Emerson College with a BFA in creative writing, and he edits The Hard Work of Hope, a weekly poetry series produced by Mass Poetry in response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Awesome.
All right. Everybody welcome Owen Elphick. Take it away.
Excited to hear you.
All right. Hi, everybody. First of all, thank you to Chris and Katie for having me here. And my goodness, it's stressful to be going after that incredible set from Ray Jane. It's wonderful to get to share the space with you. I'm gonna just be honest, y'all. I haven't done like a full set in like 2 years, almost 2 years. I've done a couple sort of virtual open mics, including the one that Chris first saw me at. But this is sort of I'm getting back into it, and so if I'm a little rusty, forgive me. I'm going to be reading primarily from my book that Chris mentioned, which is called Thoughts and Prayers. This is as he mentioned, it's a book-length sequence of poems sort of centered around gun violence in this country and my personal relationship to it. It was published by Wild Press, which is an organization at Emerson College where I did my undergraduate degree. And I started writing these poems sort of in the wake of the Parkland shooting, and it was good to see this week the shooter in that case, Nicholas Cruz, pled guilty this week, and I'm hoping that brings some peace to the victims of the families there. I also have to mention this book is for sale. If you would like to order a copy, if you like what you hear tonight and you want to order a copy, you can go to my website, owenelphick.com, and copies are $8, and all of the proceeds go to the March for Our Lives. So I'm going to start actually by reading a poem that is not mine. I think it's really important for me to like bring in voices that are not mine and voices that influence me and matter to me. So it is fall, and I love the fall. I don't know what fall is like where you are, but the leaves are changing color here, and fall is great. And there are so many poems about fall that I love, and this is a poem about fall that I love. It's called Fall Poem, and it's by Nez Smith. The leaves done their annual shimmy. Now the street light with no soft green curtain cuts a silver blade across my bed and my body. I didn't want to start with leaves, even though I love how the trees turn the color of aunts and Soul Train line to the ground each October. No one wants to hear a poem about fall. Much prefer the fallen body, something easy to mourn. Body cut out of the light, body lit up with bullets. See how easy it is to bring up bullets? Is it possible to ban guns, even from this poem? I lie in the light, body split by light, room too bright for sleep, thinking of the leaf-colored bodies, their weekly fall, how their bodies look like mounds of a tree's shed skin. A child could jump into them and play for hours. There I go, talking about our dead. And if you don't think they are your dead, I've run from your hands. They are red like the tree down the street, a hot air balloon of blood. The leaves dyed fruit punch red, red as a child's red mouth after an afternoon spent on the porch with a bag of Takis, watching other kids walk by, waiting for kids who don't pass anymore on the other side of summer, or maybe go to a different school, or moved out east, or made like a tree, and now sleep in a box made from one. I'm going to read from Thoughts Prayers now. Goes without saying, but trigger warning across all of this for mentions of violence and guns. So if you're sensitive to that, please take care of yourself. 1. Gun smoke fills the lungs of my generation. We choke on the acrid taste of it. It burns our eyes. Our ears are accustomed to the ringing song of bullets loosed to find us, to claim a promised land in flesh, a home in the body's slow leak into unbecoming. There is no malice in the dull hollow of a barrel, the lifeless precision of machinery made for ending things. Only obedience to whatever hot hand grasps it. And every day I am searching for new ways to let go, to make myself a white flag. 2. Snow poured steadily past the classroom window, a white whirl beyond bricks and pages, beyond the rustlings of E-period English. It was a Friday, the week almost over, winter break and a white Christmas within sight, and we were waiting, bristling for it, the burst into a wintry escape when it happened. Our group work disturbed by Mrs. Ryan Gidman's voice cracking through the class with the news. Elementary school, 1 hour away. Shooter. Dead, and I had never heard of Newtown. Never knew it was so close. I gripped the cream tawny desk with a copy of the Odyssey atop it, stared out the windows, imagined flakes filling the holes in those children and melting into a bloody slush, speckling the bodies, every one of them some version of my little brother. It still makes no sense to me. How a man no older than Telemachus, no older than I am now, all these years later, could dream himself the king of a twisted Ithaca, lost to war and the sea for 20 years at the mercy of every monster. How he could enter that school and imagine he was coming home, reclaiming his country, see bullets as arrows, the gun as a bow only he could string, and the skulls of children as axe heads, before leaving us all to scrub blood from the walls. 4, and this one is a guzzle. I don't know where you think you are, buddy, but this is the land of the gun. If there's one thing you can find in this godforsaken country, it's a gun. The Wild West may have vanished, leaving the land colonized, the buffalo near extinct, but there's still plenty of danger in these dusty streets. A gun protects you from that. We breed weapons here, make love to them, conceive the next great violence. Try hard enough and you can make anything into a gun. A banana, a pair of closed scissors, a hockey stick hoisted up like a rifle. We are just playing pretend. The sound of a car backfiring, easily mistaken. Gun, the engine of this country, and see how far it takes you. Fireworks at night become bombs bursting in air. You just need a little imagination. Your own hand is a gun. Bring your first 2 fingers together, cock back the thumb. The transformation is not so difficult. Nothing could be more natural. The body becoming a gun, fully loaded with language, our best ammunition. Take a shot. They are shooting a film. Always the same film, a Western. A boy is a gun. A girl is a gun. When you were young, you collected sticks that curved in just the right way, fit your fingers about the base of each one as it took the shape of a gun. Now they hide in your closet, your shame. Scraps of wood you imagined into weapons. And have you really changed, Owen? Have you ever stopped playing with guns? The new James Bond movie is out this month. So I'll read this one. 5. I kept it in my pocket like a secret. Took it out only when I was safely alone in the corridor between the coops, evergreen paint peeling off the walls like the drops of sweat on my skin as I pulled it out. A pink plastic water gun, tipped in orange, shaped like the Walther PPK I had seen Daniel Craig cradle in Skyfall, as close to 007 as I was ever going to get. The only thing wrong with it was the color. Pink, as my sunburned skin. No, pinker. Pink like a princess. Like the dripping inside of a watermelon. Pink like a girl, not a boy taught that violence is the only way you become a man. Hot pink, hotter than the sun that day at summer camp when the counselors brought out packs of water guns and we made a tiny, wet war with them in the grass. And when no one was looking, I tucked this one away. I held it now in the half shadow. July sunlight creeping along the stone floor, the Coca-Cola refrigerator packed with ice, the only witness to my crime. Later, I rode home, my body slick with pool water, the thought of the new weapon in my backpack warming me. Now it sits on my desk, cracked from years of secret use, watching me, a reminder that everything you steal haunts you eventually, a reminder of how much a real gun can steal. Similarly to Ray J, music is super important to me, and I'm a big fan of hip hop. And it just happens to be Drake's birthday, Champagne Papi himself. So, I mentioned him in this poem. So I'm going to read an excerpted version of this piece. 11. I'm not afraid of getting shot. The noise just makes me want to cry. Jill McDonough. You know how in the intro to Energy, you hear that chunk, and then the spray of bullets hammering inside your ears, filling them up? And how in the music video, Drake comes toward the camera with one fist raised above his face, the other stretched out like he's firing at the viewer? Or how the first thing you hear in Bustin' at 'Em is the tuning of the instruments, the guns cocking and firing and preparing to be played, and then you hear shoot first, ask questions last. That's how these so-called gangsters last, walk a flock of flame, and then the hi-hats rattle their way up your spine. And the beat explodes into your ear, vibrating all over it so that you can't tell what's drum and what's gun as he sings bow, 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 bitch, I'm bustin' at 'em. Or how when the beat for Thug Love starts on the 7th count of the beat, right after Pac says, where my guns at? Or possibly, where my thugs at? You hear that click, click of the gun cocking, and then it fires twice on the 8th count, and it does that for the whole song. Or how you hear a gun cock right before Joey's verse starts on Survival Tactics, and then you wait a full minute, a full 24 bars, and then the beat cuts out as soon as Joey says, throw the clip in, it cocks again. Just to remind you it's there. Then waits deliciously patient as Joey spits to the dead air until he says, just another man who defeated by survival. That's your biggest rival, or possibly rifle. You can't tell over the sound of the gunfire, and you can't tell if the next line is in your whole life or end your whole life. You can't tell who has survived. Or how at the 3-minute and 24-second point of who shot you, you can hear Biggie cocking back, forcing someone's mouth around the barrel of his gun. And then he says, didn't I tell you not to fuck with me? Huh? Look at you now. Huh? Can't talk with a gun in your mouth. And you can hear the victim pleading. Hear his lips moaning around the metal as he sobs, don't kill me, right before 6 shots ring out. And then the drum kicks in and the beat comes back, Puff saying, as we proceed to give you what you need. Biggie saying, who shot you? And you think about what Pac must have thought after hearing that song less than 3 months after being shot 5 times in that lobby with Biggie upstairs. And how could he have known it was recorded a year prior? How could he have not seen it as a violent act? And how could anyone have known that in just over 2 years, both of them would be killed 6 months apart, both hit by 4 bullets in the passenger seat of a car, the air cut from their lungs, the music cut from their bodies, and we still don't know who shot them, still won't admit what really killed them. I'm going to take a drink. In the words of rapper Mick Jenkins, drink more water, or you might die. I've been thinking a lot this week. Obviously, I've been grieved and furious about the recent tragic death of Helena Hutchinson, who was a young cinematographer who was killed in an accident with a prop gun on the set of a movie called Rust. There's been news sort of coming out about that this whole week, and I've been thinking about how even when the guns aren't real, we're still not safe from them. So yeah, I'm thinking about that sort of through this whole reading and keeping Helena's memory. And I also want to say I have a friend, like an old friend who has been in an accident, is in the hospital this week, and I've been thinking a lot about him, and he's in this poem. So 16. For a long time, all I wanted for Christmas or my birthday was a Nerf gun. Safer than the Red Ryder carbine action 200-shot range model air rifle, so my parents couldn't even say, "You'll shoot your eye out," to explain why they didn't want me gripping a false weapon. All we had was the super soaker we bought Dad to scare cats away from the bird feeders, which he hardly used. I would run through the yard with it in my young arms, the black tank sloshing with water. It never felt right to me. It wasn't real enough. The plastic trigger stuck in place so you couldn't even squeeze it. The pump action shuddering in my hand, water sputtering forth. A disappointment. Not like Nerf guns, which the boys my age would hoist through the air like an armful of triumph. Touching one always sent a thrill through my skin. It's easy to grow infatuated with what you never learned the feel of. Every time we went to Concord for the weekend, to stay at Ben's house, or Evan and Joel's, these three older boys we wanted to be, my brother Adam and I would follow them down to their basements where the arsenals were kept, far from the conversation of our parents upstairs. They would fall out into our greedy hands, orange foam bullets the size of fingers stuffed into plastic chambers, clips that clicked up into our weapon of choice. It was the days of Nerf and Strike, and there were so many options. The Maverick Rev 6, its 6-shot chamber spinning like a carnival wheel, or the Vulcan EBF 25 machine gun clatter bursting forth from it. But my favorite was always the Recon CS6, that thick, chunky pistol with the gray spine, the long barrel, and laser sight I could add to it. I loved the assembly and disassembly, the way each part locked in place to fit my fantasy. My second favorite was the Nightfinder EX3. Ben's was modified with a rubber band, so when you cocked back and fired, the whole gun rattled, saying with a crack almost like a real shot. You got stung when you got shot with the Nightfinder, and one time Ben hit Adam right between the eyes, and he went down, clutching his face, started crying. Ben and I got real scared then, tried to comfort him, to shut him up. It takes so little for a game to stop being a game. For cries of glee echoing off the walls to turn to pain, and even then, excitement lingers in your mouth. A few years later, our parents gave each of us a secret strike, AS-1. Wimpy. Pathetic. Not made to resemble a real gun, and maybe that was the point. They only came with 2 bullets, one more than the number fired into Tamir Rice by a cop for playing with a toy gun. And Adam wanted more, so they caved, gave him the Alpha Trooper CS-18 with the long neck and the cylindrical clip that contained 18 bullets, one more than the number of people who died in the Parkland shooting. And I knew better than to ask for my own, but my insides burned with jealousy. And sometimes I would sneak into Adam's room and just stand there, holding the CS-18, wishing it were mine. Funny how for a long time all I wanted was a weapon to call my own. How I still have dreams about the Recon CS6. How we used to play in that basement all afternoon and I knew it was wrong and still I squeezed triggers like my life depended on it. How I went down there at night when no one else was around just to hold the Nightfinder in the dark. Funny how I still never held a real gun. How playing with guns never got me killed. Okay, got time for a few more. I have a series of these poems throughout the collection, sort of prose pieces, prose poem / short story, whatever, where I imagine myself encountering someone who was part of the sort of history of the gun industry in America, and especially folks like from or around Connecticut, because that's where I'm from. That's where the Sandy Hook shooting happening, and Connecticut was sort of the center of the gun industry in the early days of the United States. And so I'm going to read one of those. Never read this one before. 19. When I ran into Sammy Colt, he was standing in the graveyard at the edge of the common. His beard was full and thick like my father's, but dark. Not a spurt of orange flame, but rather the ashes that remain after. That or powder before the explosion, itching to ignite. The wind rustled blackened leaves left over from fall, plastered to the dirt and pushing through the cracked snow. I approached him cautiously. I didn't want to startle him. But it was hard to take the edge out of my voice when I spoke. Admiring your handiwork? Not really, he replied curtly. Most of these were before my time. Aren't they lucky? There's no need to be so aggressive, he said. There's no need for you to be here. Don't you have enough grave sites to visit back in Hartford? As if you would know, he said. I gave my life to that city, everything. And isn't it doing so well now because of it? I said, each syllable tipped with sarcasm. He ignored me. Remember when you read at the state capitol? I was in the crowd watching. You probably didn't even notice me, but I was there. I heard that poem. What was it called? State of the Union. You criticize this country, boy, but what have you ever done for it? You don't care about this country, I shot back. You care about being rich. You were happy to sell guns to both sides during the Civil War, to make a killing off it. His hand shot to his pocket. I saw the pistol emerging and instinctively put my hands up. But he didn't aim it at me, just held it up and shook it in my face. It rattled, ancient and empty. You see this? He roared at me. This was my grandfather's. He fought against the British to free us, to create this country, and you accuse me of tearing it apart? I had a vision. The impossible gun, the greatest equalizer this country has ever known, something to keep us free, and I did it. Half this land wouldn't be ours if it wasn't for me. I know all about what you did, I told him. I saw your work before you saw mine. Came to Hartford on a school trip when I was in 6th grade. Saw your collection. I remember the lights burned golden yellow and the revolvers gleamed under the glass. I remember the boys in my grade gathering around, pushing each other and laughing loudly and trying to hide how hungry they all were, looking at those pistols. And I was no better. Pubescent and horny for power, for the feel of it in my palm, but I didn't push like the others. I just gazed at each one, memorized the intricacy of them, the workmanship, the delicious antiquity, and the name, Colt, and I didn't know whether to be proud of it or scared. Mostly, I just wanted to break through the glass, to touch what you made. Silence stretched between us for a very long while. Then he said, and what did you learn from that? What have you learned since then? And I didn't know what to say. I am so 22. I am so tired of feeling powerless, of this empty, useless grief, of telling myself I write for a greater good when it is really just to help me sleep at night, as if I deserve it. I could pray to whatever God I'm told to, and still, somewhere, another sanctuary is being punctured by the dull, dark metal of ending. Another body is falling, a period of iron and fire drilled into the page of a back white hot and merciless as the Old Testament. Another set of absences blooms into being, bare spaces ripped into the air like flowers torn from the ground to be tossed onto a grave. I try to write a poem for every victim, for everyone lost. But I know in the end, I am really just writing poems for myself. Eulogies to the graveyard of my throat when I say their names. Ghosts swarm me, nameless and whispering, reminding me of how I could be in their place, of how many more will disappear into this white space between poems, their deaths more recognized than their lives, the death toll of words growing. And I know I am a hypocrite. No, I am as much the enemy as any shooter. My complacency, the most brilliant killer of all, a sweet toxin, a disease. The other night, MJ told me about a friend who recently had a gun pulled on her by her ex-boyfriend. And when MJ found out, She didn't feel anything. I nodded. Like her, I am less scared of violence than I am by the idea I do not care enough. I could have gone to a march today, but I stayed home, writing this, masking it as resistance, even though I know my poetry won't save anyone or bring anyone back. That these are just thoughts and prayers, sent out into the space where lives used to be and dissipating into nothing with them. That anything I say will be swallowed up into the next assassination of language, the next slaughter that brings me to my knees, empty, voiceless, before I pick myself up and, like a monster, move on. 25. You can't control death by being able to deal it out. In the end, you're no safer from guns with a gun tucked in your hand. Eventually, it will just eat you. The same way fire consumes everything it touches, greedy flames spreading, gobbling at whatever they can reach, transfiguring it into more flames, this burning a kind of procreation and inheritance. I think about the first person who discovered fire. They must have burned themselves, like a child on a stove. I try to remember the first time I was burned, or the first time I saw a gun and knew it for what it was. Prometheus's gift and Cain's curse brought together in this metal body, beautiful explosion waiting to happen. And yes, I am infatuated with the glow and grow of hot violence. Yes, I am scared of the dark. Candles fill my apartment with warm gold light, make the shadows and corners seem more beautiful somehow, dance on the wall in a way that lets me sleep. But I blow them out before unconsciousness takes me, keep water nearby, just in case I make a mistake and knock that yellow hunger over into the destruction of everything I love. You can't fight fire by tossing another flicked lighter onto the blaze. You can't douse a country in kerosene and expect it won't burn. And yes, I have longed to take the night and burn through it. But I know that will not save me. All fires burn out eventually. So with everything around me turning to black, folding into the jaws of this inferno, what else can I do but embrace the dark? I sort amongst the ashes, salvage the charcoal, and try to draw with it. Thank you.
Owen, so powerful. Totally captivating stuff.
Wow.
Woo,
Yes.
thank you so much. So intense, so powerful.
Yeah, sorry. Whew, gotta come down.
Yes. Yes. Take a breath.
Drink some water, like that rapper said.
Water, you might die.
That's good advice.
There you go. There you go.
Good
Oh,
advice.
wow, Owen. Thank you so much for all that you shared with us this evening. So powerful, so intense. Of course, just like Ray Jane, you got to go over to Facebook and YouTube later and just see all of the comments and just people just being stunned and just totally captivated. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks to everyone who came through to watch. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. And there is more, folks.
There's more.
We get to talk to these. Yeah. we get to talk to these incredible writers during our Q&A time now. So we're going to bring Ray Jane back up. Let me just get our little banner up here. Hey, Ray Jane.
Hey. Owen, that was sick. Amazing.
Thank you, man.
Wonderful work, man.
Thank you.
Incredible. And can we get another round of applause for both of our guests, Ray Jane and Owen Elphick? Yay! The audience is applauding at home.
Bravo.
Snap.
Snap.
Snap is great.
I kept wanting to just be like, yes.
I was over here getting my snaps in. I know that.
And I know you guys can't see me or Chris, but I was sitting back here like, woo! Well, now, lovely audience, send in your questions. Get those in the chat, please. And we're going to get started with our relatively new, famous first question, which I love, which has brought us so many fascinating stories and interesting, just interesting info, fun facts about our readers. Chris, can you give us that first question for our...
I can indeed. It's simple and to the point. How has writing changed your life? Ray Jane.
Ooh. Way to open it up, guys.
Yeah. We're going deep. Immediately.
Oh no, poetry gives me permission. In my life, I can say whatever I need to say. I can be whatever portion of me wants to speak in that moment, and also being allowed just to have multiple dimensions to yourself and try different things out. So certainly, I think throughout my life, that's been very important ingredient for having the bravery to even speak in general, is just having permission to say something somewhere.
Right.
That's a great answer. And you know, Ray Jane, anybody who's seen you read here, and we've had you on here before, and it's always so striking. You know, we hear you speak, and then when you read, it's like you transform your voice into this what sounds like a completely different person. If you had your eyes closed, you'd say, "What? Wait, who's talking now?"
It's Ray Jane.
Sign up for this, like what?
That seems related because what you're writing, you have permission, and then when you read it, it's like, oh, okay, I'm putting on this mask or this costume or whatever, taking on this persona, and I'm going to read in that
to deliver it. I have permission to deliver it in this world of poetry, in my poetry voice. Like I go into this mode where I'm totally free. I could say exactly what I want to say, exactly how I want to say it, in this incredible way.
You know, it undresses me. So it's not a layering of a mask. It's actually a removing of it.
Interesting. Nice. I like that.
Awesome, Ray Jane.
Thank you.
Love it. And Owen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big question. I know, like, I mean, I've been writing, and I knew I wanted to be a writer since I was like 5. Like, awesome. By the time I was 5, I had sort of decided that was the thing I would do. And then as I got older, like I discovered that that writing takes a bunch of different forms, and I expanded, like I've expanded in terms of the ways that I write. I'm not like, I don't necessarily think just fiction is the thing anymore, like I maybe did when I was a kid. But yeah, I mean, it's sort of hard to say how writing has changed my life when it has so sort of completely encapsulated me.
It has been your life.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there is a distinction, and I've been trying to sort of learn, especially during the pandemic. I think I've been trying to figure out like what the line is between the writing and my life, because I don't actually think they're the same thing. I think I think writing ideally, you know, gives me a space to understand myself better, and understand the world around me better, and has allowed me hopefully to become a more thoughtful and compassionate person, and has allowed me to be more empathetic towards other people and be a better citizen. But I've been thinking a lot about, like, also wanting there to be, you know, what you put in the writing, right, is not necessarily going to be your whole life, and you want to be careful about how much of your life you put into the writing, and how much you let the writing take over your life, and I also know. I also know that, like, writing for me is not necessary. It's like writing sometimes for me is stuff I write that ends up in a book, like that,
right?
Or stuff that I read at a thing like this. But I also have been trying to gear myself towards writing that is not merely to produce, like not merely focused through the lens of production, but writing that is beneficial to me in and of itself, and
right.
What, you know, whether that ends up into being any sort of form and audience here, right. It's, you know, that yeah, and so I hope that sort of answers the question.
Absolutely. This is like, we love this question because we get like the most fabulous, fascinating, super deep answers, and it's all like resonating, and I'm thinking about every single thing, and Absolutely. It makes sense. Owen, thank you so much for sharing. It helps you understand things, also express things. And, there's this aspect of production, like for it to be shared, but also like just for yourself. And someone in one of our audience members in the chat just responded to what you said, Ray J, and this idea that you're kind of undressed, that you're kind of going into this deeper layer. And a few weeks ago when we were with Chris Abate, he was talking about how it gives him the freedom to like go into these associations and to like fully explore these aspects, these little thoughts that he has, and to have this total freedom of flow in them. And absolutely. I kind of hear that in your answers as well. But Ray Jane, we have questions that have popped up for both of you. But I'm trying to ask you, Ray Jane, Owen just told us that he's been writing since he was really young, since he was about 5. Jane, do you have a memory of like when you kind of got started writing? Or
Yeah, it's about the same amount of time. Oh, we must have been writing in the same class, brother.
yeah.
Oh, but yeah, those are my earliest memories of writing, is actually writing poetry as gifts for my mom's friends, because she used to have to sometimes take me to work with her. And I was conscious even then of that being a taboo, or, that she could get in trouble. And so I had to be good, and so I would like, okay, I'm going to write a little, and I give a little, poem to somebody and just like try to make friends. My mom would be all right.
I used to love that.
Ray Jane, that is the sweetest story.
Legal Aid Society in New York City.
I love that. Imagine getting a poem as a gift from a child. That is the sweetest thing I've ever heard. And I loved your way of thinking. You're like,
they were very bad, but they were cute.
That is the cutest story. I love that story so much.
I bet they've held on to him.
Yeah, definitely. She's still friends with them. She goes to visit because, of course, she's a teacher now. So that was, her beginning career. And so when she goes back to visit, they, one guy in particular, Peter Hart, he's a lawyer there. He's always like, I still got my little, I forgot what that one was called.
No way.
I still got Mama's flow on my wall.
I love it, Ray Jane. You gotta bring that book over there as soon as it's published.
That's for sure.
We all gotta get Ray Jane's book. I can't wait. Ray Jane, when is it?
Oh, it's coming. I don't want to put out exactly when it's going to be, because as we all know, a process is its own kind of monster.
It is
very slippery and hard to catch sometimes.
Definitely.
Letting it blossom. But I'll be sharing more like on my social media pages of the process, so everyone can anticipate when things start to pop off. But Owen, what is the name of your book? Because
yeah, show your book again.
I will show it again. It's called Thoughts and Prayers.
Thoughts and Prayers.
And I read, I guess, one of the poems. I think the second to last poem I read was like the title poem.
Yes, I heard that. So good, Rowan. All right, so we have some questions that have popped up in the chat. Chris, grab us a question.
All right, this is from Ben Nadler for both of you guys. Do you often find that you are the speaker/narrator in the poems you write, or do you gravitate toward poems where the speaker/narrator is a character or someone else?
Great question, Ben.
Ray Jane?
Great question. Oh, man. Ooh, Ben. With the mind bender. I feel like majority of my poetry is from my perspective. And I think that's because it's very much a therapeutic exercise for me. I think when I have the most fun, though, is when I switch perspectives and I'm speaking from somebody else's story. Sometimes the socially inclined pieces are from someone else's perspective, from that perspective of whoever, I'm trying to lift in that moment. So certainly trying those things out, which I think is the fun of poetry, the art in it, and really stretching myself as a creator. to do things that may not necessarily be comfortable because it's not what I'm used to, but finding the fun in that, right? Like, okay, well, I can also be great like this, and kind of use poetry as a prism for what I can create, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What about you, Owen?
Yeah, I mean, I think sort of my natural instinct, you know, being the self-absorbed writer I am, it's to write about myself, and it's to write from my perspective. Is you know, that's sort of normally what I instinctually go towards. But I'm not. But I you know, I do sometimes write persona pieces. I you know, I learned about persona pieces through poetry, and you know, for poems specifically, it's like, you know, a lot of it maybe starts from my perspective. There are a couple pieces in the book that are persona pieces,
Right.
where I'm writing from the perspective of a character, or sort of like a character, but it's also me. And I mean, and that's the other thing too, is I think is like, me is sometimes a character. You know what I mean? Like, it's not always.
Yes.
It's, and I also think that I have a multiplicity of selves, and sometimes the version of me you're getting in one poem is not the version of me you're getting it. You know, like the version of me you get in the poem about hip hop is like different than the version of me you get in like the poem about running into Samuel Cole, right? Like those are
right,
sort of different,
right, absolutely.
Those are different sort of entities. And when I'm writing, I'm sometimes having to think about them in a kind of like with a certain detachment in order to write about them. But yeah,
absolutely.
But ultimately, I mostly just write about myself.
I love that.
And throw care.
At least in poetry.
Definitely. Oh, both of those were like such fabulous answers, and you know, I can totally relate as a poet. I know writers, we can really relate to kind of both of those sides, and kind of the fun and the freedom of like either kind of going into this multiplicity of selves and perspectives that we have, or also like having the challenge of taking on a different voice or perspective, and then just the freedom to do that, and sometimes go between two different voices within a poem. It's just the coolest thing. Thank you so much.
Also, love you, Ben. I miss you.
Oh, Ben is your friend. Shout out.
Are you ever tempted, either of you, to write from the point of view of somebody who believes something the opposite that you believe, you know? And right from that person's voice. So, you know, Owen, the obvious sort of, you know, person that would be like, you know, so like an NRA guy or something, and who would just say, you know, lay out his, and you kind of do that with the cult thing, because he's
true,
even though it's, you know, it's a character in that piece talking, but he's not narrating. Have you done that? Do you think about that? And like, you know, sometimes that opens up this whole other thing, not just empathy wise, but also you kind of find out ways to just like in a debate, say, you find out ways where their argument is, you find out weaknesses in their argument by giving their voice a voice to them.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a tricky line to walk between sort of, you know, taking on an opposing perspective without sort of recreating it in a way that feels harmful or whatever. But absolutely, yeah. I mean, a big part of the book that I sort of didn't get to these poems in it, but is I have family members who are, you know, that NRA guy.
Yeah.
like truly, like literally, and I sort of wrestle with that in the book. And one of the biggest actually things when I was sort of finishing up the book, and one of the most important things for me was, you know, talking to my mom, who it's her side of the family that I sort of mostly have these relatives on, and the thing she said to me was like, she's sort of my best editor, and I read the poems, and I just wanted to hear what she thought, especially since like she's in them and stuff like that. And she told a thing she told me was, I think you should like go ask your uncle to like go shooting with him, because I think you don't have the perspective of what it like means to actually have a gun in your hand and to sort of see it from his side and why it's a thing that he is so invested in and why he cares so much about it. And I didn't do that, but I that made me really sort of rethink how I was approaching a lot of the writing about about family members and about stuff like that. And again, it's a hard balance because
it is.
I think you have to understand the perspectives of people, especially the people you disagree with. But you don't want that to again slip into you want to see them as full humans.
Yes.
But also be firm in what you believe in terms of if something they believe you find morally repugnant.
Yes, exactly.
It's hard. It's really hard.
I think you expressed that a little more.
I wrote the book and I still don't sort of have all that sorted out. I still don't necessarily have answers for that problem.
Yeah.
Ray Jane, what you as I saw you nodding, like, you know, considering the like other kinds of views, or like or someone who would just speak differently on an issue. Like, have you thought about the like writing from those not in a supporting way, but like to get into like to represent, like to get into that voice somehow?
So we've actually already done some things like that. With collaborations, particularly one with Paul Conqueso, where we did a piece on, I forget the young lady's name, talking about she killed her attacker, and he was her lawyer and I was the judge, representing the systematic oppression at 100%. So that was really fun to do it from that perspective, and then have this banter back and forth about what justice really means. So that was really cool. And then just a lighter one, doing a poem from the perspective of kind of like a player, it's 1-800 fuckboys. Like if you were calling a hotline looking for a good guy and you fucked up and pressed the wrong number, ended up calling 1-800 fuckboys, and this is the dude that you're talking to, and he's trying to.
Ray Jane, I love this. I want to hear that poem, and I want to get Paul Conqueso on here, and I want to hear that collab poem. I want to hear both of those.
So go anytime. Let me know.
Oh, I love that, Ray Jane. I love that, and I love how like taking on this like other voice that's really, really not you, like can kind of go in these very fascinating two different directions, like in a more like comic and interesting observational direction, and then on these justice issues as well. Like, fascinating. Oh, what a fabulous. Oh, interesting. Cool stuff.
Yes. These are great questions, by the way. Like, wow.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, we got great question coming in from the audience. Chris is amazing questions, so good. All right, so I think we could fit in at least one more question before our famous last question. Chris, what do you think?
We got for sure. We've got
we do have several questions in the chat right now.
I got time. I got on.
Wait, what'd you say, Rachel? Do you have a question?
I gotta go to work in the morning, so I wouldn't say
okay.
All right. Let's see. I'm just trying to read this one so I can get a all right. I don't know. There's too many good ones.
There are. It's all good.
But this one is serious. From Gregorio. Do you write in other genres? If so, are there ones you prefer? I imagine maybe you prefer poetry, but maybe not. Or that you feel complement your poetry especially well?
I'm gonna let Owen start with that one.
I mean, I definitely also, hi Greg, I love you too. I also miss you. Yes, I definitely write in other genres. I I'm also a playwright, and I've written a little fiction and screenplays and stuff, and I have been more recently sort of dabbling into nonfiction and essay writing and sort of dipping my toes in there. It's interesting. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's hard to say what I prefer. I've definitely like poetry is definitely one of the ones I've ended up doing sort of way more of in like a professional capacity in terms of like when I was at school. Just sort of well, I mean, the thing about poetry, just to be honest, is it's easier to like a poem takes less time to write than a
it's more immediate.
You know, yeah, like I not, and I don't say I like it's not easier in the sense of like the same amount of obviously there's I think an equal amount of attention and craft and
of course
and energy that has to go into making a poem as there does making sort of a longer piece of work, but it's easier for me to like write you know, produce more poems in a shorter amount of time maybe than it is for me to
like you can't just like whip out the notes on your phone on the subway and be like a play. I mean, you could.
Chapter 11. You know,
yeah, it's a different sort of time investment. And so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really I think that I think for me it ultimately comes down to like a question of like what's the best way for me to
express
express the thing and tell the story that I'm trying to tell, whether that's about me or about someone else. Often if it's sort of a fictional story or something, it ends up in a play or a short story for me. And if it's more sort of personal and about me, it ends up in like a poem or now like a nonfiction thing. I mean, the thing that's been really interesting for me is finding like, I was in a workshop where I brought in like this very, very long poem as a poem because I'd gotten very used to writing poems. And a person was like, this sort of reads like prose. I feel like this should be an essay. Oh. And that just sort of like, it kind of fucked me up, to be honest. Because like now, because I've been realizing that there are a lot of poems that I've written that I love poetry and I think poetry is amazing, but poetry is also to some extent a limited form. It's hard. It's
do everything necessarily.
It's a tighter container. It's a tighter container than some things.
Right.
And there are some topics that I've written poems about, but where I wanna the kind of stuff I would want to talk about and the kind of things I would want to delve into is maybe accomplished better with an essay, which is why I've sort of been headed essay writing more. And so it depends. And as to like what complements poetry well, I mean, I think there's been some really interesting like crossover between like poetry and playwriting.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, there are people who write, I mean, a lot of plays started as poetry. Like there wasn't sort of much distinction. There was a lot of blurring of lines, and there are people today who are wonderful poets who are writing plays in verse or who just have a very poetic sensibility to their writing. I also think that ultimately for me, I think like I definitely think like medium and genre are things, but I think there's like a lot less clear definition between them. People like to say, right? Like some of the there are a lot of the poets I look up to are also nonfiction writers, and a lot of what I love about their nonfiction is what their poetry brings into it, what their sensibility from poetry brings into it, and vice versa, right? Like
yeah, absolutely, Owen. You know, I always like hark back to when Charles Rafferty was on here sharing from some of his prose poems, which he just did not differentiate from flash fiction. And, you know, Ray Jane was just sharing about that awesome collab piece with Paul Latour, where like you have these two different voices and it's a poem, but like that conversation absolutely has this aspect of, you know, almost like that a play, like a drama piece, because I'm sure, you know, when that is read or performed, it's just incredible. It's like a you know, probably an incredible dialogue. I'm assuming a lot, but I can only imagine how awesome it is. Great, Jane.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Oh, and it sounds like you're doing a lot of amazing things. I would love to read any of your work, pretty much. You can call it what you like. But definitely that's dope. I think that's one of the nicest things about the community. It's just how many different ways we all are creating, which I think is really inspiring also. So certainly, I think we're also pushing each other. So Finn Bell, she, invited me to be a part of her summer series for storytellers. So she has a podcast on Spotify, and I believe another medium, but I don't recall the name of that at this moment, but it's definitely on Spotify. And so that pushed me because I do like to write stories, fiction, and particularly about love. So it was a series on love. So I have a bunch of love stories now, just short stories. And you can definitely find a link to that on my website as well, if you like to take a listen, which is scary for me because it's not the usual. But it's fun. It's fun. So
okay.
I love that.
If we do another Valentine's Day show, maybe.
Oh my God, yes. The answer is yes, definitely. And Ray Jane, we want to hear those love stories.
that would be so.
Woo! All right. Well, okay. So Tanish Kaur is in the house, and she has
honey
a
long.
we have just a few minutes left. We have to get to our last question, but I can't not show Tanish's question here. And we'll do it all. She says, how do each of you decide, or what is the process for deciding what is for you alone and what you want to share? Like confessional poetry, is there a place for that for you personally? So Owen, you had mentioned this earlier, like of writing that's just for yourself. And so how do you decide is this awesome question between like this is just my poetry for me and what is the poetry I want to perform, that I want to publish, that I want to share with the world?
Well, the simplest answer is that I share the stuff that's good. You know what I mean? Like sometimes the work is not good, and that's how I decide not to share it. But also, I mean, I don't have a great answer for this question because I'm actually sort of, again, more recently, I've sort of been in the process of trying to sort of sort through and decide what.
I see.
I feel like I was very much in a mind frame for a time where everything I wrote, it felt like that had to be geared towards publication or I would do a thing where I would write a thing and it felt like if it couldn't make it into a manuscript or become something larger, if it wouldn't get out to the world eventually, it was wasted. Like, right?
I see.
And I have gladly moved away from that.
Yes, good.
I can feel that way sometimes. Like I still have that sort of feeling, but I think I've come to appreciate more that there's like there's a lot of work that you do that doesn't necessarily make the book or the publication or the stage or whatever, and some of that's good work. Sometimes, like that's the thing is like sometimes you have to hold a really good poem back, and that's okay, and you have to do that, and sometimes that's. I mean, I know at least with my book, I had set myself a very specific limit of I'm only going to have 26 poems in this book because that's the number of people who died in the Sandy Hook shooting, and it was important to me to have that. But that also sort of functioned as a good way to keep myself. I wrote a lot of poems that didn't make the book,
right?
And some of them will just be like hard drive classics. And some of them, and some of them, and I like one of the ways I know Chris is one of those poems ended up I ended up rewriting it and reworking it, and it ended up getting published
separately from the manuscript.
It's like a separate thing from the project. It is sort of grown out of that project, but it wasn't sort of in that work. And so, it depends. It just you sort of, I think I don't necessarily know that I have like a criteria set for how I decide, but I have to just sort of follow what feels most right.
I think you've described that like really, really well, Owen. We end up sharing what we think is a really great quality, but I love that you moved on from that mindset that anything that wasn't good was a waste, because you know, whenever you're writing, you're honoring that moment. And even if it's not like good or something you want to publish, like it was so good that you did it. And you're also just like keeping the wheels turning, keeping the flow going. And I think you described that so well. Ray Jane, what do you think about this? How do you make those decisions?
So those are some of the toughest decisions, I think, as a creative for myself, because I know that writing for me is not just a personal action.
Right.
It's not just to feed me. So I'm writing often with that in mind. And so the things that I know I have to get out, like, there's some things you just have to get out.
Yes.
You just have
Totally.
to say it out loud. And if you're going to say it out loud, you might as well say it to other people who either may be lifted by it or convicted by it. Either one is fine.
Yes,
But both, you know what I mean? Evoking some thought. So that's one way. And then things that are fun to recite, I'm often sharing, just because, we're always getting kind of deep, we're like, fight the power, because that's part of what poetry and writing is protest, right? But it should also be an act of joy. And so joyful things I'm trying to share as well, and really just trying to create a situation where if you know me as a writer or as a performer, then you know many sides of me. So if I only give you one particular kind of poem, then you never really get to know me. And what's the point if that's the case, And there are some things that, of course, I keep to myself, and it also depends on the medium for me too. A lot of the things that I write with my hands, I don't share, versus things that I type out somehow, maybe just for ease, and it's just not kind of weird, turning the pages sometimes gets so I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna share that one. I don't got time for that. Let me just pull it up.
I'll type that one up later if I feel moved.
Exactly. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with it. Thank you, Tanisha, for that great question.
Yes, another fabulous question and fabulous answers from you both, and so wonderful to learn so much about you. We are slightly over time, but we must get to our famous last question. Chris, take it away.
Yes, so these can be done very, very briefly. Double question now. What's your pearl of wisdom for so say a writer comes to you and says, "Oh, give me some advice on writing." Pearl of wisdom and a book recommendation.
Yes. Ray Jane and then Owen.
Okay. Pearl of wisdom would be write everything down. Go to your Medium and put your shit down. That's your place where you can put your stuff down. So you don't have to carry it. You don't have to share everything, but please do get it out of you.
Yes.
As far as a book recommendation, there's so many.
Oh yes, so many.
so many. One of my favorites, which I keep obviously in reach as I see. Yes, exactly. Boom.
This is the truth.
You can't get a better endorsement than that. So
that was awesome. Ray Jane, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's it. That's all I got.
Oh my God, that was awesome. All right, and Owen, your pearl of wisdom. I think we have your recommendation.
Well, I mean, so this is actually the book I read, the first poem I read that was.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
This book is incredible. Oh my God! If you're looking for a poetry book, please read Homie by Dennis Smith. My God. I should probably keep it at that, because you're asking like a bookseller for a book recommendation. That's dangerous territory. That's dangerous. Instead of recommending something other than Homie, I will say, if you are thinking of ordering books for the holidays, please get them from your local independent bookstore, and please do it sooner rather than later. Supply chains are.
I love this PSA, Owen.
Yeah, right now, and I know that yeah, people, the people who work in independent bookstores will love you for it if you get stuff from them and if you do it now.
Amen. Amen.
So I'll say that. I've only been a bookseller for like a few months, and it's already like consumed so much of my personality. It's fine. Pearl of Wisdom. I get. Oh man. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I'm so young. I don't know that I know anything that would be useful.
But the first rule that comes to your mind.
I'm sure you've heard many.
I think the advice I would give, the advice I'm trying to give myself, and the advice that I would try and give to a writer who is starting out, whether they're young or whatever, but any sort of writer is like sort of on the flip side of what you said, Ray Jane. Like absolutely, like yeah, write everything down. Like if you're gonna write. But I also think I would say forgive yourself for the days you're not writing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like again, I think for myself, it was very easy for me to get caught up into that sort of thing of like thinking, oh, if I'm not writing every day, I'm not really a writer, or if I'm not, I haven't made progress on this in X months.
Well, right.
Sometimes it just takes time, and you have to let it come to you, and be patient and kind with yourself, and know that like there is more to the work of your writing than the actual writing itself. And if you're good to yourself in the rest of your life, that will follow and come through, and when you actually like sit down in front of the computer screen or a notebook or whatever. So yeah. That's it.
Fantastic.
What an excellent pair of pearls.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. We need one more round of applause for the amazing Ray Jane and Owen Elphick. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Yeah, thank you guys for having us. This is awesome.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for being on.
Absolutely.
Pleasure.
You guys keep on keeping on.
Yes.
Yeah, right. No
And
choice
thank you.
but not to. You feel me?
Yeah. Thanks so much to our audience for joining us. You guys have to go read all of the comments and love on Facebook and YouTube. Yes. And it's archived now. It's up on YouTube and Facebook for any of your friends in different time zones or who couldn't make it. Share it with them. It was such a pleasure to have you guys. We look forward, hopefully, to having you back again at some point. And next week we have Spooky Night. So hope you tune in.
Spooky night.
Spooky Night.
Halloween.
Including Tanish will be on.
Yes, Tanish, who has been in the audience this evening.
Yes, we call her Honey Lung.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Right.
hope you all have a good night. Thank you again so much.